G'day everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hidden City Roller Day. I think we're episode 4 now. I'm your host, Simkoff, and I'm joined today by a motley crew of hidden rollers. We have Toridori, aka Bert, two-time Hatamoto, Oz Discord League organizer, and all-round larrikin. Say hi.
What's up? How you doing, guys?
We got Merlin, the Phoenix Hatamoto, also the Matamoto, has more playmats than anyone I know, and some great merch. How you going, Merlin?
Yeah, doing all right.
Brilliant. And we've got a very special guest today. We've got a multi-national champion of FFG events. I'm not sure what they are, but KP, who's been a very strong L5R player here locally, and he's helped organise CanCon and a few other events. How's it going, KP?
Hey, not too bad. Just to clarify which games I guess I'm national champion for. It was Call of Cthulhu LCG twice, Adult once, I think. Oh, Star Wars LCG once as well.
I had fun playing the Call of Cthulhu game. I like the resource mechanics in that.
That game was a lot of fun. I liked it.
Yeah, it was quite a well-designed game. I think the themes in it were a little strange in that it didn't really make sense as a Cthulhu game. So just card game goes. It was really well-designed.
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about? There are no other games besides L5R.
Turns out there are. Cool.
Not in my world, Ben.
So how's Lion, Bert? Let's give us. I was thinking about.
Oh, why? We don't want to start with that, bro.
Wait,
we want to bring the mood down with that question straight away.
I don't know. I've been in the Lion forum. Some people are pretty upbeat, like the global Discord. They're upbeat.
Do you know what? I on that note, I would love to give a shout out to the Lion chat because I just throw endless salt. I pour salt into you guys all day long, and you still are the most optimistic bunch of L5R players. I don't know what drugs are on, but it's great.
Well, I think Lion are putting up results, right? They did pretty deep in Houston. I think it was. Was it Houston, or what was the latest Kote?
It was. Handsome Dan got to top 4 with it, and there were, I think, Architect Gaming went 6-1 with only one lost game to Shen, who was the eventual winner. So
does he write his
people who did well?
Does he write his name down as Architect Gaming, like on the list?
I think that's his real name. Yeah,
it's Mr. Gaming for formerly. Yeah. All right. Why do you think Lion? You think Lion's a bit trashed here, don't you, Bertie? Toridori.
Oh man, we could do a whole podcast on this, but
what's your main theme?
Well, I think that the new box is a little better than I predicted. I shat on it pretty hard when I first read it, and about a month after that, I was trash talking it. But I do think it's a little stronger than I anticipated. Just the threat of that third conflict has been pretty good and a lot of fun to play. But I still think what it really does is it makes us even more RNG based and swingy, which was our big problem anyway. So I think it's just exacerbated that a bit. So I think in big tournaments we're not going to be able to win events because of that. So.
You know what I was really surprised about was in our game yesterday how much economy there was not on the rings. You know, like having 3 conflicts and me having 2 conflicts mean no fate went onto the rings.
Yep, and then I was playing Goblin Snakes to starve you of whatever else you had.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks.
I think those Goblin Snakes are great, right?
Say it's more.
Go ahead, KP.
I was going to say, when you say it's more RNG based, you're saying it's because you're much more reliant on kind of breaking almost? Because you have to win by 5 or more, right, to trigger the...
Yeah, I think there are some fast starts you can get with it where you get 2 charges turn 1 and a reprieve, or if you're playing Dragon Splash, you get the let go for their Pathfinder's Blade or whatever. And it just feels like the old Stronghold was like a consistent boost. It wasn't very good, but it was a consistent every turn. It gave you something. And in this game, there are some games where I have never triggered the Stronghold. And then there are others where I broke 3 provinces turn 1. So I think there's like a wider range of the highs are higher and the lows are even lower than
But
the
do you
old
think-
stronghold.
I see what you mean.
Do you think that the threat of triggering the stronghold has an effect on the way that your opponent plays cards, though? Like they might overcommit to a conflict they wouldn't have otherwise?
I do think so. I think it usually means that your opponent has to play more defensively. So certain clans don't like doing that. But against Crab, for example, I found that they're quite resilient to it because that's their style anyway, is to start off playing defensively. But against Crane, for instance, you can have games where you put so much pressure on them that they just crumble because they're not used to playing like that. But it just depends.
Yeah. One of the things
It's a
I've
lot of
noticed, it does seem a lot of fun to play. I've noticed a bit of a trend is that they come out of the gates really hard, but I've seen quite a few games where Lion take the first 3 provinces within like 10 minutes, and then they spend the rest of the game trying to take the box, and a lot of the time it can almost time out, right? Like,
Yeah, which is great for slow players, yeah? So if you go to Worlds this year, play Lion and just break 3 provinces and then stall for 50 minutes.
Slow down.
that is true.
Play like waning hostilities and stuff.
Really, is that it slows down the game, but at the same time, the turn itself is kind of faster. So don't do that. You want to take some time, think about that second conflict.
And then pass.
And I think every time there's a regroup phase action window, just say, thinking.
There was a funny anecdote about the thinking statement that people do in Jigoku sometimes. It was Kalimsha was talking about Johnny Shen, how he always does it. He says thinking, and he was saying, Kalimsha was saying, every time he says it, I just say think faster.
Hey, KB, new meta.
Yeah.
All these new packs coming out. Has anything surprised you? What's your hot tip for our listeners?
Tip is Unicorn is actually pretty good, as I found out by getting smashed by Simkov here about 2 nights ago.
I think there was a few
no.
coin tosses, but yeah, the encampment's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, the encampment was
that's
insane.
what does
It was so good.
I mean, in the game I played against KP, is there was the encampment, and I drew some spyglasses. Turns out card draw is still pretty good, and just being able to get 2 uses out of every spyglass every turn, it made it really difficult. Like because I could just towards the end, I don't even think I was bidding one, but yeah.
Down right towards the end, but yeah, there was a time where I had like 2 forbidden libraries, and I was down on cards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was pretty wild. Yeah. Also the mazes. I think there was an early maze you lost, but that card's strange.
Mazes flip, right? So some games, I think every game I've played so far, it's been amazing, and it's been 100%. So this was like game. For whatever reason, I did the first one, and I'm like, surely it'll work. Because 50-50 if I've been 100% so far. Because that's how math works.
Yep.
But it failed, and that was fine.
My strategy with maze...
When I say fine, I mean, it makes sense.
I literally flip a coin, look what it is, and then I'll adjust my dial accordingly. I make sure it is pure chance. I'm not interested in mind games. Pure chance.
50.
Yeah,
take all of those elements out.
Yeah.
Ben creates a little area, a little space, and he hunches over it like he's a prisoner guarding his meal, and then he rolls his die, and he peeks in to see what it was. It's the funniest. It's the funniest fucking flourish you've ever seen in your life. It's great.
And I was going to try to employ some rock, paper, scissors style psychology, and it just didn't work.
Because there was no psychology. There's no mind. My brain is empty. You're trying to play my games. No. How about you,
You
Merlin?
embrace the void. That's what's going on.
What do you found in new set, Merlin? Any nuggets? Any nuggets of wisdom?
Well, I think that I've decided that Maze is just way too inconsistent. Spreading the Darkness is really nice, but the two honor cost is a bit high for me. So I got to be a little bit boring, and I'm going back to the good old Dragon Splash in my Phoenix. But
Dragon.
I'm really actually excited to try out the new Elemental Master. So I'm building a deck around that at the moment. I'm so keen to get some games on with that card.
So since Jurigen's Curse has come out, I've been playing a Shrine Maiden deck out of Scorpion. I think Shrine Maiden's a great card for Scorpion. I'm on record now.
Oh, that deck is filthy, man. That combo that you told me about after Wednesday night.
So here's a combo, listeners. So you obviously play as every spell possible for Scorpion with Phoenix Splash. So I'm playing Against the Waves. There's 3 there. I'm actually playing 1 Supernatural Storm, which is probably a bad choice, but it's in there. 3 what do you call it? The Against the Waves. That's the restricted card. I've got the Walking the Way. Walking the Way is so good in Scorpion. It's unbelievable. Being able to pull out the right holding or like the ambush target. It's great. But here's the little combo. So Shrine Maiden obviously picks up some spells for you, but you've got your Shadow Stepper. So you actually the new 2-cost Shigei that lets you pull cards back. Right, so you play your Shrine Maiden, you grab your spells, you pull him back, you do it again, and so you can actually generate some pretty big card advantage.
And don't worry if you don't have a Kami. What is it, Jurigen's Curse in your hand during the Fate phase? Just drop your Shrine Maiden again during the Fate phase and pick one up.
Yeah, and it'll also draw you into answers like Cloud the Mind for your pesky Tadakas or Guest of Honors. So speaking of the curse, I was playing a game with Marwin. Shout out to Marwin. And I started playing this curse, and we realized we had to learn how to play L5R. We had to pull out the rulebook and figure out how the Fate phase actually works. Because we realized when you repeat the Fate phase, you actually add Fate to the rings again, right? But the thing what we couldn't work out until we pulled out the rulebook is in the Fate phase, when you Fate the rings, do you actually pull the rings back, the ones that are already claimed? So your claim rings. Turns out you don't. That's in the regroup phase. So you get double Fate on the rings that weren't claimed, and then you don't get any Fate in the claimed rings. So but that was
I guess.
Yeah.
What's okay?
Yeah, I guess when a phase is normally like irrelevant in the sense that like you kind of just go through the motions and skip through it. You don't really think about all the implications of what that phase.
Yeah. So
it's
good
right.
though.
That was actually one of the.
Go ahead, man.
I was going to say that was one of the strange things that I found at the Kote was when I would sort of go through the Fate phase and the regroup phase, it seemed like people didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. Yeah.
It's like when you go through the action windows and they're like, what? Don't we just go to the next turn?
Exactly. Like, now? How about now? Okay. Now we ready everybody and then we discard and then we put the rings back.
I think crab players were the only people who cared for a long time because of their way crab tricks. They're always like, we have to do the Fate phase right.
You learn real quickly when your 5-drop gets killed in the Fate phase.
You start paying attention.
Just on the Jurigen's Curse, because that was one of the cards that we all kind of were shocked by at the face value when we read the pack. I've played a few games with it. What do you guys think is the best utilization of it? Because I'm starting to think that like a deck that basically pulls all of its Fate turn 1 and tries to get off a reset like turn 2 or 3 is the way to do it. And cards like Waning Hostilities might make it into those sorts of decks. So you're just slowing down the province breaks before you wipe the board and you have a huge Fate lead. That's how I'm looking at it.
I agree, but the challenge, because you got to do it out of can you do it out of Unicorn? Unicorn or Void?
I don't think so.
Yep,
you can.
You can. It's Void only, so it's just Unicorn and Scorpion.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, can you do it out of Unicorn? Is there a deck? Like, if we theorycraft a deck out of Unicorn that uses Curse, what does it look like?
I'm sure Joe will figure one out for us.
I'm pretty sure Enzi's probably already got one built, and he's in the beginner tab of Jigoku, just crushing people with it.
Watch out, you might find out Mind Desire with Dragon just up at his stats in that beginner tab.
I'm sure he's been in there before.
Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the leagues. So KP very successfully organised CanCon, which is a great Canberra tournament.
Did
Yeah, which all of us here we went up. The Melbourneites went up to Canberra for it, and there was a few from around the country. It was probably was the first real national event. It was brilliant. So now I hear you're doing some Oceanic, Asia Pacific thing. Do you want to talk a little about the scene outside of Australia?
I can say as much as I know, although there are limits to A, what I know, and B, what I can actually speak about. There's a little bit of hush-hush going on at the moment.
Norris.
But
Ooh, I'm excited.
Have you guys ever heard of the King's Moot? It's actually like a Game of Thrones event. Yes, there are LCGs outside of L5R.
Blasphemy. No, I have. That's the community-run Thrones tournament, right? That Aussies do.
It's actually run by one of my good mates who is really into Thrones. And so he kind of started up the idea of making this larger event to be part of Circuit, right?
Cool.
He didn't begin the Oceanic Circuit. The Oceanic Circuit already existed, but he was like, hey, why doesn't Australia join in too?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the local players in Sydney is from Singapore, as it turns out, and is also a Game of Thrones player. He kind of came up with the idea. So it wasn't me that came up with the Oceanic idea, but he's been kind of spitballing the Oceanic Circuit for a while now. And so we decided to try and link it up so that Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, the Philippines, I feel like I'm Indonesia, but I think one of them is also possibly Vietnam. I don't know how huge the scene is in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Basically, Southeast Asia will all have, which are thematically linked to each other, in that they are all under the same banner of the Oceanic Circuit. Here at the moment is to have those tournaments eventually link up to one major tournament, which will be held in... been determined yet, although there's talks of shifting it around. If it's quite successful, then it would move around each year. It wouldn't just be always in the same place.
That sounds
Dude, we should go.
awesome.
We should go to Bali.
Yeah.
Hold it in Bali.
And is the idea these events, I guess Koteis don't represent the entire world. They're always in a certain few countries, which is fine and great. And these are complementary rather than a replacement to those events, right?
Exactly. They're an extra thing that you can do on the side. I think a lot of the, especially like the Southeast Asia region will often get ignored as far as Koteis or those larger events goes. I mean, Australia often falls into that category too of
well,
FG games. We don't really get those kind of more premier style events in Australia.
Well, I do know that we have some listeners in Thailand, according to my analytics on the podcast. Shout out to our Thailand rollers. So if you guys want to have a stop out in Thailand, I'm sure we could figure out a way to take a holiday out there for sure.
With the Game of Thrones event, the original idea with it as well was that the entry fees in the national level tournaments, so like the Australian event, the Thai event, the Indonesian event, would go towards a plane ticket for the winner.
Oh wow!
To represent that country at wherever the host nation was. It's not like an exclusive invitation, so I mean, if you want to fly there yourself, you absolutely can. But it was just more, you get a stipend that will help you out and get there.
That's massive.
I love that idea. I think linking up of regional communities like that is a really cool concept. I'm a big fan. I hope it goes places. So if you're in Australia and you're listening, or elsewhere, join up to the Facebook group and check it out. It's awesome.
And I know there's a big community of like merchandise makers, so I'm sure there'll be some fun prizes as well.
Huge. I've heard some good things about some merchandise coming out, which I have to keep under wraps for now.
Oh, exciting.
yeah, there are people in those regions who kind of make their own components. So
Wow.
we'll have
Oh,
to
of
see where
course.
that goes.
All right, brilliant. Okay, how about to the Discord leagues, which there seems to be lots of at the moment. Toridoro, you want to give us a bit of an update on how the Oz Discord League is going?
Yeah, I'm
What
glad you mentioned the Oz Discord League first because I
That's the
just
most
scrubbed
important,
out
right?
of the global one, so I'm pretty much done with that. I played Shooter Rev at 3 a.m. and got smacked down, so that was no fun. The
heard
Australian
it's
one's going well. I'm about to pair the fifth and final round. It's a pretty tight race actually, and so the top 3 players from the Swiss will be selected as our representatives for the upcoming World Cup, and then the top 8 is going to be seeded against the French top 8 for a unique once-off single elimination tournament. Should be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
But yeah, the games have been really good. I've been enjoying the league a lot. I don't know how you guys have found it.
Love the league.
Yeah, it's funny when packs are coming out in the middle of the league. It's always you schedule your game around when you can or can't play certain cards.
Yeah.
I actually, if we have time, that's actually something I'd love to talk about is the 6x6 release schedule.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm certainly having a heap of fun playing Unicorn. I think this will be Unicorn's good now. So it's nice.
Yeah,
I think for so long
fun.
Unicorn has been trash, and it's great to put up some results with them.
Isn't it great to just have to read their cards now? Like you're compelled to read them because people are actually playing them and doing well with them. So you don't need to just say, "Oh, they're purple. I just put you in the bin."
I feel like
actually
I feel like a new deluxe set dropped. It's like we had a 6-faction game and they've just introduced a 7th faction. We've got all these new cards to explore. This whole new faction. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
What's your
KP,
MVPs so far in that Unicorn deck, by the way?
rebuild. Obviously, Shatoni
Yeah.
encampment rebuild's really critical, and I would say that Captive Audience is really, really, really good.
Bonkers card. I love that card.
I'd say other component, which I think the jury's still out. I've had good results with it so far, but I definitely know that a lot more reps need to be put in before I come up with a final answer. But I'm loving Spread the Darkness. I think that card, in the context of Unicorn, is absolutely fantastic. You have to balance it. You can't play it with Assassinates, really. But that really makes you take those provinces. And it's a conquest deck, right? It does force you...
You've got like yurts and rebuilds to help compensate for that honor loss, right?
Yurts, and I had to, like against KP, I actually went for the airing once just to gain 2 honor to pay for my next.
Something really close in the honor race at the end. It was like 4 to 5 or something.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I think it was lower than that. Actually,
We're both cellar dwellers.
I've noticed that more in general is that the airing has actually lifted in priority for a lot of players, like in my games, because there are just people are constricting bids earlier. And then also these new cards like STD.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So, KP, you're talking about the effect of the 6-on-6. What were your thoughts there?
so
Nope, you might have cut out.
all good. Sorry,
You're back.
my connection cut out. Okay, hello. So the 6-on-6. Because as I've mentioned, I've played a lot of different LCGs.
Yeah.
I'm used to the a pack a month style. So for me personally, when the 6x6 got announced, I was pretty excited for it. I think what tends to happen with LCGs is you get a core set out and it just stagnates for ages. So little content that a release a month just doesn't almost feel like enough.
Yeah.
It takes ages for stuff to change. 6 has been weird. I like that the content comes out quickly. Absolutely. Like, I like the fact that we get in 6 weeks. That part is good. Part of the weird aspect of that, want a deck build for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, it's this weird thing of like every week stuff's changing, and as Merlin was saying, especially in the middle of a league, it's really odd.
Yeah.
This week, okay,
Tiny little pocket minutes.
it's strange. So I feel like to have it, 6 packs in 6 weeks. Why not just at once?
Yeah. Think you have.
I love all the cards at once. But there is a cost. I think one of the big costs was after that first 6 and 6, there was a lot of player retention problems because there was no communication, which I think they really fucked up with that, like not communicating that they've got things in the pipeline and stuff. And yeah, it is a big economic thing, right? As well, like some players just can't afford to buy 120 Australian dollars or 130 or whatever it is worth of packs in that short amount of time, which is annoying as well. So I understand. There's a whole bunch of arguments. I just, as a competitive guy who likes playing the game all day, every day, I love having more cards quickly. But yeah,
Have you found
I agree.
It, Merlin?
This is obviously from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah. How you found it, Merlin?
I thought it was a really good idea the first time, and then I sort of went off the idea a little bit after that, and then they announced a second one, and I was fairly ambivalent. So to be honest with you, I just don't know. I do like getting a bunch of the cards all at once, and I don't really have a problem paying for it, but I can see how people would have problems with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mildly unhelpful answer.
Just as a note, the few decks that we're talking about, if we talk about anything else during the podcast, I'll make sure in the podcast notes, so you can look in your Podbean, iTunes, wherever, Google Play, etc., Zune, you can check out the notes and we'll be able to link to the decks. Okay, so there was a big announcement, right?
oh yeah, we haven't even
yeah.
got to the big announcement, guys.
Yeah.
I love doing the
announcement.
podcast on a Thursday because it seems like that's announcement day, right?
Yeah. And it's not about Russia this time. It's actually about rolls. Do you want to, Merlin? You're the curator of news stories. Do you want to cover this news story for us?
All right. So the news story is called "Something Is Coming," which I thought was really odd because it's basically an announcement of exactly what is coming. So they put up a new organized play page. I don't know if you guys remember a little while ago there was like some news at the FFG, retailers summit or whatever it is that they have about this tournament that's between store organized play, like regular game night kits, and a Kote. There was like this premiere event that wasn't quite a Kote, but it was better than game night kits. Yeah, so that's basically what they announced. So a bit of detail. They are seasonal type of kits. It sounds like there's going to be 3 of them a year. They're called the Elemental series. There's going to be 2 elemental challenges in a year and an elemental championships. And it seems like the whole point of it is to get more, like the winners of these events, the winners of the championships are going to be able to select a role. And then the winners of the elemental challenges are kind of going to go into some sort of voting system to choose an elemental role for their clan. And each time they choose, that role will be available for organized play for that clan for something like 8 months. So for all of this talk about elemental locking and not having access to different elemental roles, seems like they kind of had this in mind the whole time, right?
Or at the very least, they had a reaction to the widespread butt hurt across the community about it.
I think the role system has definitely been controversial.
Yeah.
Well, deeds not words, and 2 rolls at once is good.
Yeah. We were talking about like new deck types and stuff like this, so I particularly like this because it gives me a chance to play with cards that I swear to God are like I've been salivating to play Consumed by Five Fires and Jurgen's Curse and stuff like this that I just can't.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, right? Yeah.
Sure, everybody's got those cards, right?
So just for some clarification, so there are 3 points throughout a year where roles are chosen. Once is at the World Champs, and then at 2 Elemental Championship phases, which they're going to be events that are only held at big cons. They're going to be, I think, are they bigger than Kotai's, or they run concurrently to Kotai's? I don't really know. But for the entire period, what's that?
They said,
I actually thought.
go KP.
I actually thought, like, reading the article, it mentions them as similar to, like, regional level.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Shouldn't be.
So
They shouldn't be Kote level. If they're regional level, which is similar to other games, they'll probably be like 1 per major area, if that makes sense. But I imagine it will be a voting system to how they've done the Kote now.
Yep. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Like with whatever the Toshi Rainbow. So I don't think it'll be restricted to cons. It would make sense, I guess, if they put them at a larger event or at a major store. But I don't think it's going to be quite the thing of like, Grand Kote at Gen Con. It won't be.
No.
Isn't
I'm
it
surprised that
interesting-
they...
Go ahead, man.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, I'm surprised that they said that they were going to run them at cons, because that has also been kind of controversial with the whole paywall thing.
Yeah, definitely.
The championships are the ones that that are sort of the regional level things, but there are also the elemental challenges, which are the ones that are run at cons.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're correct. My bad.
Well, what I found interesting was that they actually reduced the time period for how long those particular roles are locked in for, from 1 year down to 8 months. So it's like a 2-year cycle where in the 2 years you have 3 different reseeding of all the roles in each 2-year block, which is pretty cool. So this year's world champion, and will pick the role for his clan or her clan for 8 months, which is kind of interesting. Or 2 of them, I guess they picked 2 of them.
So if I'm reading it right,
I think
every 4 months, or is it every 8? So every 8
It's
months?
every 8 months. Yeah, there'll be a new elemental championship phase every 8 months.
So ring stays.
Yeah.
So a role stays active for 16 months. Right?
So what happens
8
with it
months.
is you have so
But I
say
thought
we've
2
got
can be active at the same time.
Yeah, you have 2 roles for 8 months, and then after that 8 months, you come up to an elemental championship or a world championship,
Yeah.
and you re-pick roles, and you have
So
another
there's-
2 for
Oh,
8
so
months.
at those points, 2 new roles get picked.
2 new roles get picked. Yeah.
Ah.
It
Oh,
is
wow.
actually slightly different. I feel like we're arguing semantics, but I feel like what it is there's 3 different times in the year where a role gets selected.
Yeah.
The it's Winter Court, Worlds, and the 2 Elemental Championship seasons.
Right.
The 2 roles active. So say at the moment we've only got 1 role active, right? We've just got whatever it is right now.
Yep.
The next season, whatever that may be. So the Toshi Rainbow role, second role. So we'll have whatever we have now. Role.
Yep.
Then after Winter Court this year, we'll replace whatever our current role is. So, for
Right,
example,
right.
I play Phoenix, so Keeper of Water will go away, and will be replaced with whatever the new Winter Court role is.
So only 1 role
Well-
will be active.
So no, 2 roles will be active. Cycle
The
out. So
Toshi
whenever,
Rambo role, and then another new role. Right.
whenever is chosen at Winter Court, yeah. And
Yeah,
what will
yeah,
happen is
that's-
whenever a new role cycles in, so every 4 months, then the oldest role.
Cycles out.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. That's good.
I'm just excited for deck diversity
That's good.
because
Well, that means every 4
gonna be
months there's a bit of a shuffle, which is fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, confusing but cool. I think it all makes
Yeah.
sense once the first tournament
We'll
happens.
we'll have to implore our listeners to come up with a nice flowchart or infographic or something.
yeah, I'm too dumb to read that fucking article, man.
All right, so I know you think Lion are quite miserable at the moment. I think you're putting them like below the Nezumi in terms of power level at the moment. Like, if you got to choose a new role today, what's it going to be for Lion?
Oh man,
Tell me
that's tough. I'm like attracted to an Earth roll for the Sabotage.
Sabotage is great.
Yeah. Fire and Void rolls are going to be good for a while. I think just a Seeker in general would be nice because I'm sick of playing with no Fate from provinces. I think it's just such a huge advantage to be able to have a Seeker roll. So I'm hoping most clans get like one of each of the role types. That'd be pretty cool.
Most clans will try and aim for is voting so that they'll have a keeper and a seeker.
Yeah, because then you like you in terms of your clan's performance at an event, you've got more of a chance of making a statement one way or the other. I think, which is cool. But for Lion, I think maybe Seeker of Earth would be cool. Play with Pathfinder's Blades and Sabotages.
And in Time of Wars, that card can get a bit of a
Well, I think it's only good if you're recycling Pathfinder's Blade, because right now there aren't any other weapons that are good.
But I would dare say it's very good if you're recycling Pathfinder Blades.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. I played that in a tournament. Wasn't super legal. All right.
I just remember being at the next level games in Ringwood, and Ben rushes up to me. Man, have you got any crab cards here? My splash is illegal.
I thought, why not people doing this? This is crazy good. Why not people playing Pathfinder at Lion? It's so good. Turns out there's a reason.
It is really good.
It was when that pack hit. I just thought, wow, this is the card Lion have been waiting for. Turns out not so much.
Oh man, so many great times, so many great tournaments made better by Hatamoto's cheating.
Cheetamotos. The Aussie Cheetamotos.
Yep.
All right. So, major world events. We went through. Did anyone pay attention to the co-days going on? I think there was a Houston co-day recently. Not sure who won that.
That was Johnny Shen.
Johnny Shen. Oh, legendary Johnny Shen. Good to see a bit of clan diversity in the co-day wins. So it's Scorpion again, right? I mean, he's an incredible player, so congratulations to him. But it'd be nice to see a non-crab, non-Scorpion win.
And James Balthus, who came second, who hadn't played in like 2 months, just trashed all of these experienced Discord players.
Love it.
And he made his 4th Hatamoto status that way. So there you go.
4th Hatamoto?
Yeah.
Must be nice to live where you can get to 4 Kote events.
Yeah, and then still not play for 2 months.
It's going easy. I think this game does have a pretty high skill gap, and sometimes like very high skill ceiling.
I don't know, man. If I stopped playing for 4 months, I don't think I would do like very well at all. I think that says speaking of Kotes, KP, I don't know what role you would have voted for Phoenix, but I voted Seeker of Void for you. Just letting you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that most Phoenixes are in the same boat and saying Secret Void is probably the role we need most. Because the problem is, we have such a good province that we can't play because Shameful Display is better.
Yeah, that is
Secret
a shame.
Secret of the Void fixes that so much. And also just having Fate on defense is pretty good.
Because if Kayomori was any element that wasn't Void, it'd be in every Phoenix deck at all times, right?
Absolutely. But because it's Void and we have such high glory, Shameful is just so much better.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to the brokenness of Shameful Display. It's just such a broken province.
Like,
It's
Kayomori
broken.
is amazing.
Yeah. I was talking about it this morning with some of the Discord guys in the global chat, and we were just saying how, like, against Crane, if you run into their Shameful first, it's a lot of the time you just lose the game. And it's the same for them. Like, if you're a Crane player and you run into a Shameful Display turn 1,
Yeah, it hurts.
like, your odds of winning just drop by like 20 or 30%, I reckon. It's so hard. Such a big swing.
Yeah, I feel like there are very few clans where that's not true. Like,
That's
maybe Crab and Scorpion. I feel like if you run into their Shameful, you probably don't care that much.
Yeah, it's not as big a deal. Yeah.
But most other clans, you run into it, it's like, oh boy.
It's going to be a tough one. So, what are people thinking about the deck diversity? Does it feel like the new cycle is just really iterating on the old decks and making them better, or do we actually think there's going to be brand new archetypes coming out of this? Thoughts?
I can start with this because I've been playing a lot on Jigoku.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm super impressed with the player base because I'm not seeing just reiterations of the old deck types, except for for crab players. Sorry, seems like crab are kind of stuck in their old ways. But I'm seeing like a lot of really interesting splashes. Like I got a Censure and a Spies at Court played against me by a crab player, and it was devastating, in that game. And I'm just loving the innovation. And I think all these new cards getting flooded into the environment kind of spurs that on, and it makes a lot of sense. It's really cool. Whether or not these decks like stick around in 6 months' time, I don't know. But for now, it's been a lot of fun to be playing.
Got it. Anyone else thoughts? Merlin?
Okay. All right. I'm not really sure. I think Phoenix have always had a bunch of different splashes and a bunch of different sort of styles, but I think there's always been one really competitive one, which is Dragon Splash, Don't Bow, type of style spell slinging deck.
Yeah, I love it. Two thought leaders of Phoenix here. Let's have a point counterpoint.
I think I've got data to back my point of view up, though.
Oh,
I would definitely say that Phoenix Dragon has been the more popular splash for ages, and it's a pretty safe splash. Like Dragon was for ages,
it
right?
does good stuff.
Like Murder's Fury and Let Go, or if it may be a cheeky Tattooed Wanderer or two or whatever. It's down and it's all good. But I feel like for ages, like I didn't play. Again, this is a sample size of 1, so didn't play Dragon Splash for ages. I played Crane Splash and I played Unicorn Splash. I was doing fine. I think in the previous Discord league we were playing, I came like 3rd or 4th or something. Global Discord league, I played Crane Splash and I went 7-0 in my group.
I was in that group. I suffered at the hands of that deck. It was a torturous loss.
Like I think there were other viable splashes as well. I think Dragon is definitely the most consistent during the restricted meta. But
I think if you didn't pick Dragon Splash, you really usually suffered against Voltrons like Crab and Dragon. They were your hard matchups if you were on another splash. You can still always high roll out of Phoenix, right? Regardless of what your splash is.
I'm starting to see a plague of Crab Splash, right? With the Watch Commanders and seeing like a bit of a harder honor pressure.
And that one actually I think is a much more aggressive deck, right? So it's a real aggro deck. If you don't sort of take the game or get an advantage kind of early, it'll start to peter out strength-wise. But I think I only saw one Kote where anything other than Dragon Splash did anything. I think it might have been Cork or sort of one of the
it was one in Europe.
Ones. Yeah, where we saw one person come into the top 8 with, I think it was Lion Splash.
Yeah,
and that's really it though.
And how
there was
Lion
one
Splash is wild.
There was one in I think it was Seattle. The guy who came top 4 was using Scorp Splash Dishonor out of the old box, which is my favorite Phoenix deck. I love that deck.
Weren't you playing some weird Mirror Gaze version recently, Toridori?
Oh yeah, I was playing. That wasn't my deck. I ripped that off Demagogue. I asked him for his because I saw him playing Fire Katanas and Mirror's Gaze in Phoenix, and I'm like, this guy's fucking insane. I want to play that. And I took it to that tournament where you guys all cheated and there were 3 DQs in the first round. But it was so much fun to play.
So a completely fair test.
Yeah, it was great fun.
We're not playing open rolls. No.
So speaking of that, right? There are so many cards in Phoenix that I really want to be good, and I think that with this cycle, I'm going to go back and try a bunch of them out, right? So Inquisitive Ishka is one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
kind of stuff.
How have we found Iswa Uona, the Fair and Balanced 2-coster that just came out?
Oh, she's grand, as the Irish would say.
KP, have you found Uona useful?
She's very fair and balanced.
Very well.
You know what I actually struggle with is including the air cards in my deck, because it's like Benton's Touch, Cloud the Minds, and Walking the Way, and then
Maze,
the conflict
right?
character Seeking, right?
Maze
I don't rate
Evolution.
Maze, right? I'm not in a competitive deck. I just can't bring myself to play it.
Speaking about Maze, just quickly, I've come to the conclusion I love playing the card because it feels like I'm playing poker. It's hilarious. I love it. But I was thinking about it, and if you think that you're better than the field where you're taking your tournament deck to, like that you have an edge over the field as a whole, I would say it's not worth playing because introducing coin flips is giving your opponent an opportunity to get a 50% success rate against you when you should really have an edge over them. So if you feel like you're not that good of a player, play Maze and use Kid and Asawa and just play as many mazes as you can because you're going to blow out people who are much better than you, which is really
I feel quite. Thanks for that. I feel quite justified now in running triple maze in all my decks.
I was going to say, I'm feeling excellent about running triple maze in my Phoenix build recently as well.
And Kikuyo, right? You're on 3 Kiku.
Kikyo, yeah.
Kikyo is staple.
Is Kikuyo good at a lion?
Staple.
Dude, Kikyo is apparently a 3x in every single deck right now. Like every time we meet up to test, just every single deck has got 3 of them, and I can't play my STDs.
Especially if the latest pack had a good spell.
There's been a lot of good spells.
Yeah.
I
All
want
right.
to jump on something Bert was saying just
Yeah.
then, actually.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how you wouldn't play Maze if you think you're better than the field.
Yeah, I would.
It reminds me
choose not-
of some.
Go
I
ahead.
agree with your point. I get the exact point you're trying to make. It reminds me of something interesting I learned when I used to play Magic. So in Magic, there are high variance decks. That even a lot of high level players would take high variance decks into high level tournaments. And the reason was, while I agree that if you think you're better than all of the field, probably not play those cards unless they do something else for you. If you're playing in a field of lots of high level players, between you and those high level players is not much, and to
Yeah.
play those high variance cards. Because
Right, so-
on a good day, like if your objective is to win and you're happy with you're happy to either win or just go home, some sense to play high variance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's a nice counterpoint, actually.
think
That makes sense. I personally cannot hack when I play that card. Like, when I play 2 or 3 of them and they all fail for me, it feels super bad if the game is close. If I'm already stomping the game, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I can't hack that feeling.
I think I just feel a bit zen about it. It's just like in poker. You get it in when your money's good, and if you get a bad beat, move on. Don't get sore
Yeah.
about it.
That is a great point.
So what I really heard in the past couple of minutes was it's a good card for bad players, unless everybody's a good player, in which case, la 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 la.
Yes, that is exactly what KP
And with-
said. Great,
and with-
great summation.
And with that, let's move on to listener questions. Bert,
Yeah.
you're an official curator of listener questions since Glenn is in absentia.
All right, awesome. So let's kick it off with this one from Monkeys and Pirates, which is a pretty good question, I think. There's always talk about how the US and EU metas are different. What are the differences, and where does Australia sit in the mix? Do you guys have thoughts on this? I'll start with. Does anyone have thoughts on this?
You know, that's really interesting. I don't know if anybody's actually... Yeah, I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about what the differences are exactly. I hear that there's a lot of Crane in this region, for example, or I hear they play Good Omen, right? But what does that actually mean, right? Like, what do they value more than, say, North America?
Well, traditionally, the European style, as I understand it, has been viewed as like playing not to lose and playing hardcore economic styles. Like that's why they like Scorpion and Crane over there, because they're playing like these decks that kind of prop themselves up and then just build advantage. like in Thrones, for example, in old Game of Thrones LCG, the Europeans would always come up with super efficient, powerful decks, and then the Americans would come up with the meta breakers, like these like creative, quirky decks. In L5R, I'm not too sure. I think Australia is just a mixed bag.
Australia's a mixed bag. I feel like it's kind of not doing Europeans justice, say, the Euro meta, because I feel like it's a big place and there's lots of different metas there, right? Like, I feel like the Greek meta just crushes everyone because they're just better players. But, you know, if you go and play in France, I'm sure there's different trends there to if you go and play in England or something.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the Greeks are just aliens. They play a completely different game.
Every time I play it's Demagogue, I'm like, do I know how to play this game?
No, what am I doing?
What am I doing live?
All right, cool. So let's just jump into the next question.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is from Leon on Facebook. What's up,
Hey,
man?
Leon.
What are your thoughts on the Shinobi theme, and what will it look like in the future? Let's start with KP.
The Shinobi theme is pretty cool. Like, I'm all for pushing trait themes in games. So I'm very happy to see the Shinobi theme is quite different from the Dishonor, the standard what seems to be Dishonor event-based control. What will it look like in the future? I'd imagine probably a lot more conflict characters or ways to abuse conflict characters.
Yeah, because they need more of that.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought that was kind of the Shinobi theme. Like people would say, "Oh, I can't wait for there to be a Shinobi deck," and yet they've got like 10 conflict characters in there that just poof appear. You know, that's it kind of feels Shinobi to me.
And not all Shinobi though, right? Like, not all of the conflict characters that are played are Shinobi, and I think that's more what I meant in that there'll be more specifically stamped Shinobi style cards.
Yeah. I know, Ben, you've played with Smoke and Mirrors, which is like an incredibly good effect.
Yeah.
And you've experimented with it. So once there's like a critical mass of that trait, cards like that will see the light of day, which would be cool.
Yeah. Where I've experimented with it is... So there's two things that it does. One is it lets you get maximum value of your ambushes and charges, because you can kind of ambush charge people out, and if they're not already a Shinobi, you chuck a seal on them and you can pull them back. So combine Smoke and Mirrors with favourable grounds, you can kind of create a giant force out of nothing, and then when you realise you don't need that many guys, you pull them back, got them for a different conflict.
Yeah, so doing what other clans do better than those clans is Scorpion's theme. Yeah. And so they're going to take the unicorn idea of movement and surprise characters and just steal that and
here's
do better. Probably.
Here's the thing, right? I think that if you think about Unicorn, right, what they're becoming quite effective at is you can undercommit to a conflict. So you just go, here's my, Shinyo Outrider, I don't know, whatever one of the chuds are, my 1-drop or my 0-drop, whatever, I attack. And then the defender, knowing there's so many movement into the conflict, the defender has to either overcommit, and then you can just go, that's great, you've overcommitted, I'm going to make my second conflict count, and I'll just let you have this one, and you're not going to be able to attack me. Or, if they undercommit, you can bring in as needed. Whereas I feel like...
just play Spread in the Darkness with your 0/0.
Yeah, of course. And if you're playing Child of the Plains, you do it before they get an option. But the flip side, I think, is with Smoke and Mirrors, instead of undercommitting to a conflict, you overcommit to a conflict, and then you pull back as necessary. So it's kind of the inverse of Unicorn.
That's cool.
It's extremely fade efficient. And it's all about, like, in-turn, short-term tactics. Like, how do I conflict battle? How do I control the table this turn? And I think that's really interesting. Whereas, like, if you're playing Dragon or Crab and some versions of Unicorn, you're thinking about, how can I keep Hida Kasada around for 10 turns and make sure that on turn 13 I'll plot my victory? Whereas, so it's a little bit different. I really love it, and can't wait to see more cards that support that strategy. There's not enough Shinobis yet, but we're getting there. New one in the pack that's just come out, so that's pretty exciting.
I'm excited for just murdering everything with Aramoro. Is that his name, Aramoro?
Yeah, heated.
in
Yeah.
the score
I think-
pack. That'll be fun.
Bayushi Amuro. Amuro.
Amuro, yeah.
Shinobi as well, right?
I think he is. I think he's a Shinobi Bushi.
I was on the Shinobi theme. I think that a lot of the Shinobi cards seem to really care about dishonoring themselves.
Mm.
Yeah, which is quite
Like
interesting.
there was I think it's quite a cool theme
Yeah.
as well. So I'm
All right,
interested
shall
to
we
see
get
more
on to
of
the
that.
next question?
Next question.
Good answer. All right, so this is from Callum. Thank you so much for your question, Callum. I really appreciate this one. And it's why is Lion terrible? Is Lion still terrible? So I think this is a completely loaded question, and does anyone else want to answer it?
I think Lion are great.
Nothing qualified, man.
I think they're great. I think that declaring 3 attacks in a turn is pretty sweet. Pretty good.
Okay, so I'll quickly jump in here. I don't want to harp on too much about it, but all of our core problems that sort of held us down throughout the Imperial arc aren't going away with any of our new cards, is what I would say, and some of them are getting worse, like the discrepancy between our military and political abilities, and also our new stronghold HMT, which has got people excited, and you're starting to see games like for example, Mind's Desire playing his Dragon deck got knocked out by Handsome Dan playing HMT in the Houston Kotai, which is cool. But there is a rumor that's been floating around the boards that Unicorn's getting the exact same stronghold, and if they get that, then our greatest new toy is going to be superseded, I would say. So, yeah, I think we've got a lot of problems, and not a lot of our new cards actually fill those holes. So that's what I would say about Lion. But there's still a lot of fun to play. So if you like having fun, play Lion.
So Lion,
if
Lion is the
Unicorn
new
gets
unicorn, is
the
what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. What else
Yep,
is
so
there?
last one here. This is a good question. This is from Zykin, who's, I think he's from Portland. He says, could you guys share an occasion where you had the most edge situation, ridiculous play, or a jank combo that worked that just made you cackle with glee? The funniest moment I've ever had in L5R was watching Ben trigger right in the streets in his province row out of Scorpion.
It's one of my proudest moves.
That was the most insane, dumb thing I've ever seen anyone do. He was a recent Haramoto who did this as well, might I add.
Massing at Twilight in that same row.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. Do you guys have any standout crazy moments?
Super edge plays. I mean, I've had to do stuff like against the Waves Might and Shugenja on Challenge 1 because I skillfully ran into Feast or Famine.
Yeah, that's a low skill maneuver.
There was.
Go ahead, Noah.
I was thinking there was one time, Bert, I think I was playing you when Feast or Famine was just coming out, and I had I don't know, 5 faded up Sakune or something like that, and I hit Feast or Famine and was about to break, and I think that was the time that I learned that what is it? Finger of Jade was a good card.
Yeah, I had forgotten about it. I had a let go in hand, and I just didn't realize because we were figuring out how the card worked. Yeah.
I actually do have a good one. This was it actually has a name, this maneuver now. It's called the Ends maneuver. So the grinder who was on a previous podcast.
This is the best.
So it's getting towards the end of the round. He's playing crab, and he's got an assassinate in his hand, and his opponent has 2 watch commanders, and he's like, "Yep, this is a good idea." With 5 on the left, he plays an assassinate to try and take out a dude. There's 2 watch commanders in the conflict. It's all over.
Yeah, dude, that was in the last round of Swiss rounds at a sizable tournament where he was locked in a mirror and they were both on roughly equal points, and time was called. It was the last conflict of the game, and he's just like, "Yep, I'm just gonna kill myself."
I think he might have been up on points too.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah, he would have been up on points.
But yeah, it turns out that 2 watch commanders plus assassinate does equal 5 on loss.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. If you made it this far, bless you. And cheers for Toridori, Merlin, and KP for joining us. Remember that if you want to contact us, we do have an email address, actually, hiddencityrollers@gmail.com. So feel free to email us there, any questions there. But we've also got our Facebook and... we don't have a Twitter account. We've got a Facebook account. What else have we got? Facebook's...
just contact us on Discord. Twitter's for dorks, so we're not doing that.
Yeah. So you can just type Hidden City Roller Derby in a Facebook and you'll find us amongst other roller derby sites. And on Discord, you know who we are. So thanks, everyone, and see you this time next week.